I appreciate you.
Hospital.
Nice.
We are worth the drive. Come see us.
I'd give you my seat on the train to heaven if only one of us could go. Give every ounce.
Good afternoon, Lake Norman. How are ya? Hope everyone's batting down out there, listening to us from your safe areas of your home or work, wherever you have been today. I know it's been a bit of a wild weather day around the state, really, of North Carolina. Justin Dionne here, hosting you for Know the Scene this week. Got a great show. Again, hope everyone's been holding out. I've seen some videos, some pictures online from this storm that came through. Seems like it's done some pretty significant damage here and there, and especially it seems like in the areas over Statesville, Hickory, I-40 area over there. I heard there was like a tornado that crashed went over I-40. They had to shut down like a section of the interstate actually at one point for a bit. I've seen lots of like flash flooding in people's yards and roads and stuff, and some trees down. So hope everyone's been all right there today. But I got a great show this week for you. Know the Scene, your weekly show here with WSIC to talk about what's going on in our Lake Norman towns as far as what's the scene, what's happening in our cultural scene in the area of the towns that make up this wonderful Lake Norman community. And we've got a great show today with Rockie Lynne, who you heard introing his song, Introing In. But before we get to that, just reviewing a few updates of other items that are coming up. So at Cain Center for the Arts, we've been continuing enjoying a great new year here in 2024 now. We last weekend had our 1-year anniversary gala celebration with Mandy Gonzalez, Broadway star. Phenomenal show. Absolutely phenomenal performance. She had a number two that she performed with a group of Lake Norman kids. It was a combination of a couple different choirs that are performing in some of the local theater shows in the area. And there's about 40 kids came on stage with her and sang with her for one of her songs. It was a really great moment, really cool. And I'll tell you too, from my side, not only was Mandy obviously a phenomenal performer herself, but she was just what a sweet and genuine person. If you listened to the show when she came on this show back in December, you would pick that up. And if you haven't listened to it, you can go and listen to it actually on our podcast broadcast of this show. You can go search WSIC Know the Scene on any of your podcast apps and listen to any of the past episodes. And you can listen to this episode too, of course, after the fact. But Mandy took the time after the show to spend time with each and every one of those kids that sang with her, and any of them that wanted a picture or any of them that wanted just to say a few words to her. She absolutely was just gracious with everything. So great to always see that with performers that we have, which almost all are that way, which is a great thing to know. Coming up this weekend, Cain Center for the Arts, we got the weekend off, but next week we got a big, busy week. We've got the Drifters coming Thursday and Friday, although I can tell you that both of those performances are sold out. And then Saturday night, the cherry on top of the week is Rockie Lynne coming in. So we are excited to have a wonderful week of programs. We've got tickets on sale for lots of all of our performances for the spring, including Davidson Community Players production of Frozen Junior, which a lot of those kids that were sang with Mandy are in, and they just added a performance. So they sold out all 6 of their public performances, and they just this morning added a Friday afternoon performance on Friday the 26th at 4 p.m. That's the only show left you can get tickets for. So if you want to take your kids to go see that Frozen Junior, get those tickets for that Friday, the 26th. Then continuing forward, we've all got lots of shows coming up there. So go out, make sure you come see some shows at the center. Come, art classes are going on as well, and go support everybody that's happening. But today we're going to focus on talking to a hometown cultural and scene hero, Rockie Lynne. Rockie, welcome to the show.
Oh, Justin, thank you so much for having me, and congratulations on such a fabulous and wonderful facility that you have there in Cornelius. I think it's just marvelous that we have a world-class facility now, not just in the way that it looks and the way that it's able to handle patrons, but in the production and the lighting, in the crew, and obviously in the people that run it. That puts us on par with all of the different world-class places in the country. And I would encourage people, regardless of whether they come see me or Mandy or any of the events that you have, just to make that a regular stop. You know, we've been fortunate enough over the years to play like at the Telluride Opera House, the Grand Ole
Yeah.
Opry, the Ryman Auditorium. We played the Madison Square Garden when the CMA Awards were there. And there's not a better facility in the world than what you have. What a fantastic job you've done.
Wow. Well, thank you, Rocky. Thank you. There's some very, very kind words. I appreciate that, especially from someone who's, as you mentioned, it has been able to experience and grace the stage of so many wonderful venues. Is sorry, just to jump right in on that, is there any one of those that you would say, because you haven't played Cain Center yet, so you can't say Cain Center, but out of some of all the wonderful venues you've played, are there maybe, a couple that just really stand out to you as far as what your experience has been like as a performer?
Well, you know, for me, it's not so much about the venue it is as it is the people that you're playing or the audience that you're playing for. So while I have enjoyed all the nice places that we've been fortunate enough to play, the things that really stick out in my memory are things like I played in Kandahar, Afghanistan, at Christmas once, and
Mm,
this young man. It was a motor pool. They were like 14 people that kept the Humvees running and kept them so that they could keep the bullets from hitting them by up armoring the Humvees. And I had a young man come up to me and uh, the show meant a lot to him and it really touched me. And then several years later, we were playing in Denver, and that young man, he showed up with his wife at the show and told me that us coming to play for him at Christmas in a war zone helped him to live and to do better in his life. And those kind
mm.
of memories, I mean, man, what else could you hope to do with your life if you get to do something like that? So it's just a blessing for me. It's the people, whether it's a VA home or a Harley Davidson parking lot or the Grand Ole Opry. It's all about being able to share this wonderful gift that God gave us with all the people we meet.
Yes, sir. When you that's wonderful. When you were over there performing that show you mentioned in Kandahar, did you go over with like a group that performed there as far as like someone booked you over there, or did you go with the USO, or how was that put together?
I would go through MWR and the Secretary of Defense. We
Okay.
would do we did several tours where it was USO tours, but those are usually the bigger places
Uh-huh.
like Kandahar and Baghdad and Kuwait, which are like what they call green zones. And in the
Uh-huh.
green zones, they have lots of entertainment. But if you remember, Bob Hope, even though he would play on
Yeah.
the ships and play for those people, he would take the small times and go out into the world. So we often play the smaller places.
Oh, that's great. All right. Well, we've got to go and transition now to a break real quick. But I love how we've gotten started just right in. We're going to go to break and we're going to come right back with Rockie Lynne. You guys make sure to stay with us. Know the scene. Awesome. Thanks, Rocky. Thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
thank
good.
you, Justin.
Sorry. I just we just jumped right in, man. And that's kind of how I'll do it. Like we'll just talk, and
Yeah,
I
let's
love
visit
just
with
like
each other.
asking you more about stuff, and we'll just go down different paths. And when we get back, I think one of the big things I'll ask you about when we get back is, I one of the goals of this show is I like to advocate for obviously the local scene, and not just but not just the fact that like there is a local scene and that the local scene's growing and happening, but to encourage people that are listening, maybe that have kids or family members who are are considering getting involved in the arts industry in some way or another, like to be inspired by that and hear stories about it. So like I
Mm.
really am interested in getting a chance to kind of get a from your story, especially being from the area, being from here, and growing up here, to get to do all the great stuff you've done,
Oh, yeah.
how is and how what that journey was like for you.
Well, we can
You know,
talk about whatever you want, and I
awesome.
hope I say something that works.
Oh, you will. You will. I'm sure you will. Yeah, we haven't had any power go out yet, Bill. I don't
Oh,
think
that's
in our
good.
area. Has any of y'all's power gone out in Statesville? Have you heard of?
Yeah, we've had lots of power outages. There was a tornado apparently that crossed the Interstate
Yeah.
40 in Catawba, and they've had to shut it down. And uh, from we have a scanner here that listens to the fire and police folks,
Oh.
and I think there's been some accidents and some injuries,
Oh
sadly,
no.
but I don't think there's been any fatalities. But well, how unusual for us to have this kind of weather. You
In
know,
January.
the mountains usually break
Yeah.
that that bad stuff. It gives it a like a windbreak or something.
Yes, sir. Yes, I agree, and especially in January. You know,
Right.
this time of year to have that kind of front come through. You know, used to it happening in like the fall.
About 30 seconds.
All right, great. Thanks, Bill.
Is that Bill?
Indeed.
Bill's over there somewhere.
Have an event you'd like to tell people about? Yard
Bill's
sales,
birthday,
estate
you know.
sales,
I know. I'm gonna hit that
Visit
now.
Y'all gotta chill.
WSICnews.com and click on events to submit your event today.
All right, 10 seconds. Have fun.
Know the Scene continues. Here's your host, Cain Center for the Arts Executive Director Justin Dionne on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
I'd give you my seat on the train to heaven if only one of us could.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to Know the Scene. Today on Tuesday with the big storm, and it's a very special day today as well because it's Bill's birthday. It's Bill's birthday. If my air horn was
Yay.
working, I would be blowing the air horn right now. Happy birthday, Bill. Our man, Bill on the sticks. Happy birthday, Bill. Thanks for everything you do here, everybody. You can call in. Listen, if anyone wants to, by the way, you can call into the show. Call into the show there and make sure it's 844-STUDIO-4, or if that's 844-788-3464. You can call in and tell Bill happy birthday.
That's how old I turned today. 3-4.
That's right. 34. 34.
Yeah, I like to set it up that way. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Congratulations and a happy birthday, Bill.
Thank you,
But
sir.
yeah, if anyone has any questions for Rocky here today, or just wants to wish Bill a happy birthday, you can give that number a call. So we're talking to Rocky. We jumped right in right before the break. Just got a little bit, just because there was some great. He said some great things, and I was kind of just riffing on it. But I want to take a minute and take us back, Rocky, if we can, because I was in the break we were talking about this. One of the things I think is important that I like to do is have our guests talk a little bit about how they got into doing what it is that they do, right? We have some very accomplished guests on this show, you, of course, being one of them. And, you've got a great story, and you even just mentioned a few things in the initial start about all the great stages you've performed at and opportunities you've been able to impact lives through, your gift and your art and what you do. Well, you're from this area. You're from Statesville, right? Born and raised from
Yes, sir.
Statesville. So I think it's, I'd love for people to get to hear, how did a guy from Statesville, end up getting to perform on all these great stages and do all these great things?
Well, that's a great question, Justin. Thank you for asking me. I was very, very fortunate to grow up in this area. I started my life at a place called the Barium Springs Home for Children in Troutman, North Carolina. I was found in a garbage dumpster as a little boy. I was just a couple days old and left at the foot of the orphanage in front of the laundry. So although while that sounds like a really difficult beginning, it's just the cards I was dealt. It's not good or bad or indifferent. It's just the way it started. And fortunately for us, they used to bring people in that would visit with the children there. And there was a man when I was 4 years old. His name was Niley Binge. I remember his name. His name was Niley Binge, and he brought a guitar, and he sat there in front of us, and I was sitting on the floor in front of him, and he sang, "I'm going to Alabama with a banjo on my knee," and it absolutely, you could have struck me with lightning, and I wouldn't have been moved anymore. At that moment, I knew what I was going to do for the rest of my life. I didn't know how I was going to do it, or uh, or anything about maybe trying to get a record deal or a band or any of those things. I just wanted to learn how to play the guitar. And now I know Bill turned 34 today. I'm 126. And at 126, I still feel the same way. And I think it's super important. I love that you focus on local people, and yes, how young people that might be interested in this life wanted to get into it. It's important to note that I don't really have anything special. I don't have a special gift. I don't have perfect pitch. I just truly love music, and I always have, and I've been blessed with a really good work ethic. So I work really hard, and I try, and I'm able to open myself up to whatever experiences come, and I've been fortunate enough to do some things in life that were beautiful. Quite frankly, to do for a living what I would gladly have done for free. So I would just encourage people, if they have a dream, whether it's uh, singing or playing guitar or writing books or starting a rickshaw business, whatever you want to do, to stick with it. And the key, the one thing that will ensure that you never succeed, is if you quit. And
Mhm.
I was 39 years old when I got my first major label record deal, which is way past the point that most people are still trying to get a record deal. I had an attorney once in Minneapolis, Ken Abdo, he was Prince's attorney as well, that told me I was too stupid to quit. And instead of being offended, as I think he was his intent, I thought, you're probably right. And then 3 years later, I got a record deal, and sitting here talking to you now, I've been fortunate enough to write songs, that were recorded by the Oak Ridge Boys, Steve Warner, Charlie Pride, Ricky Skaggs. And all of that isn't a testament to some kind of special talent or gift that I was given. I was just given the love for music, and then had the follow through to work really hard on trying to do the best I can with that.
I love that. That's such a great thank you for that, Rocky. Wow, even just your quick summary there is just so inspiring. Was there, so if we break that down a little bit more, was there, at what point did you maybe start with your first sense of like touch a guitar? Like, at what point did you ever first grab your first guitar and start playing? Were you in your teenage years? Was it later? Where was it?
Well, today we're fortunate enough to have the internet and all sorts of cable TV, and so kids get a lot of information just by Googling things on their phone. But back in the medieval times when I was growing up, there wasn't internet, and I was fortunate enough to live in a home that didn't have a television or any sort of outside things. So my mom, I was adopted when I was 5 years old, and my mother took me to the First Baptist yard sale at First Baptist Church here in Statesville, North Carolina, over on Broad Street. And at that yard sale, they had a phonograph and two records. They were 75 cents. The two records was Kiss Alive 1, the
Uh-huh.
Kiss Alive record, and Jimi Hendrix, Axis Bold as Love. And I went to
Yes.
my mom and I said, "Can I have this?" And she said, "How much is it?" And I said it was 75 cents. And I think, Justin, I think she was more concerned about getting the quarter back really than she was about whether or not I had the whole dollar. So I gave her the quarter back and I got the record, and that music just moved me beyond anything. And so I wanted a guitar, and we were people of limited means. So when I was in the sixth grade, in between the sixth and seventh grade year, I worked with a guy named John Baker, who owns JB's Hot Dogs here in Statesville. They're world famous hot dogs, and everybody goes there. Well, that guy and I had a lawn care. Well, he had a lawn care business, and I worked for him. He rode the push mower, and I did the push mower, and he did the riding. So
Uh-huh.
we'll have to ask him about that. Maybe
Yeah,
that
yeah,
can
yeah.
swap. But I did all the pushing and the weed eating, and I worked the whole summer, and I saved enough money to buy a guitar from J.C. Penney. So I ordered my first guitar from Penny's, and I picked it up at the little pickup place there at Signal Hill Mall, and that was my first guitar. I had no idea how to play it, no idea how to tune it. I didn't even really know what it was supposed to do. I
Yeah.
just knew that I wanted to play that, and that's where I got my start and where I got my first guitar.
I love that. Wow. What man. Well, that's so awesome. So all right. So before I'm gonna follow up to that, but before, just because I gotta ask. So the Access Bold as Love album, like killer album. What's your favorite track on it?
Track number 6, Little Wing.
Yes. All right. You gonna play that? You gonna play that at the show?
Well, you know what? I hadn't made my set list yet, but here's what I'm going to do for you. I'm not going to make it first, but I'm going to write on my list, play Little Wing.
Oh, because that's a
Okay.
big one. Little Wing's
Especially since we don't know it, right? I'm just going to throw it at the band, okay? So I just made a note, and I'm going to play Little Wing for Justin at the Cain Theater. And so let's do this. Let's make a pact. Everybody that's listening, and Justin, especially Bill, because it's his birthday and he might be like drinking or something. So you got to stick in this, Bill. We can't tell anybody. We're not going to tell the band. We're not going to do it. Just in the middle of the show, I'm going to start that song and let's see what happens.
Straight up
Want
Little
to?
Wing. I like it. That man, Little Wing that's a number. Like that's a classic.
I don't know if I know it. We're just going to see what happens, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's the beautiful thing about music. You don't know what's going to happen. We'll just have to wait and see.
That's
so
right.
Come to Cain Center to see if there's a train wreck. How about that?
There you go. There you go. What so then you have the guitar that you got from Pennies, you said, right?
Mm-hmm.
From Pennies. And you don't know what's going on. Was there take me a little bit farther past that. Did you find someone that became an inspiration, like someone local maybe that played that you listened to or that helped teach you a little bit, or did you just go by ear from that point? How did you take the next steps? I love this story. I think it's important for people to hear it.
It might as well have been Mandarin. I had no idea what to do with that guitar. No anything. And here's two things. I know that you believe in God, and I believe that God had a very huge hand in the shaping of me as a young man. Two things were very important. One, in the early to mid 70s, the guitars you ordered from J.C. Penney's were made in a Japanese factory called the Matsuki factory, and it was the same place that they also made all the Fenders and the Gibsons that were the foreign line, like the Squires and the Epiphones.
Uh-huh.
So the guitar that I paid $99 for at J.C. Penney was a fantastic guitar.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, well, hold on one second. Just stay right there. I know you can hear me, but hold on. Here's something interesting. I'm running in the hallway into my drum room, and I'm coming back just so because I thought you might ought to see it. This is it.
Oh wow, you still got it.
Of course I do. This is a $99 guitar that I bought at JC
And electric.
Penney.
You went electric right off the bat.
I was going to be Jimi Hendrix, man, except taller and more handsome. That
That's
was
right.
my plan. Okay.
That's great. I love that you still. Well, and good for you. That I mean, well, of course, you still have it, but no, that makes sense. Yeah, girl, listening to Hendrix and Kiss as your first, and then getting that. All right, we gotta take one more break, and then we're gonna come back more with Rockie
And
Lynne.
finish our story.
We know, yeah, we're gonna finish the story. Stay tuned, everybody. Know the scene.
Am I talking too much, or is it going okay?
Oh no, you're great.
Hey, we should finish that story about the guy that was the mentor.
I want
There's
to. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I like this type of conversation. It's nice.
Sorry, yeah, and we'll run out of time. I'm telling you, like we'll end up, we'll have to have you back, multiple times just to talk about, like, because I got the notes Susan sent me, and I want to get to them, but at the same time, I love talking about like how you got to where you are and just asking some of these real neat questions. For me, it's cool. Like I enjoy the people that we have play. Like it's not just a matter of like I want other folks to come see them. Like I enjoy, watching the artists and listening to their stories. So for me, this is kind of a guilty pleasure to get to have them on this show and just like get to some time to just ask them questions.
How are you affiliated with the Cain Center?
I'm the executive director.
Holy buckets, man! Congratulations.
Thanks.
And how's it going? Is it being attended the way you want it to be?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're doing great. I think that we're learning. I mean, we're on this is a startup in a way still. I mean, we've only been open a year, and so we're very much still learning the audiences. Like, what are the types of music and types of shows that audiences like and are going to respond to. And we're learning. So.
Do you know what Susan did before she was unfortunate enough to meet me?
No.
Susan was the senior vice president of publicity of MCA Records and later Universal Records
Wow, really?
for decades, and she could help you. We've helped some other people that we know that have theaters across the country find people who are en route. Like,
Yep.
let's say Trampled by Turtles is en route to Raleigh from Georgia, and they're going to be coming through your area on a Tuesday. That's how you can get a national artist for much less, because it's a routing date for them, and it helps expedite their expenditures on the way. I don't know if you're interested in that kind of thing.
Absolutely, always, yeah, we do. Yeah,
we-
routing is how we've been getting a lot of stuff right now too, because like we're
30
small.
seconds?
I mean, as you saw, like we're only we're 400 seats. 376 sellable. So we a lot of acts that want big money, we just can't make that happen. But if they route through, and maybe it's not on a Friday or Saturday, right? We've been able to get some things. But yeah, I would love that. Anytime Susan knows of some good routing opportunities, like please keep it. Yeah, I'd love to chat more with her
10?
about that. All right, we're coming back on in 10.
Okay.
Center for the Arts Executive Director Justin Dionne on the new 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
I'd give you my seat on the train to heaven.
All right, we're back, everybody. I don't want to. Sorry, this is great music, but we're having such a good time talking. I want to save every second we can. Justin Dionne back today with Rockie Lynne, having great conversation. Rocky is playing Cain Center for the Arts, not this Saturday, but the next Saturday. Make sure you can get tickets to that show at cainarts.org, CAINARTS.org. Get your tickets to come see Rockie Lynne here. Great opportunity to see someone who's been on stages all over the world and all over the country, and get to see him right here in Lake Norman. It'll be great. So please make sure you guys come out. We're talking with Rocky right before the break. We were talking about mentors, Rocky, and if there was a mentor that you had along your way, especially as you were really coming into things that really impacted you and helped you.
There are many mentors that have helped me in my journey to this point right here. And I guess so the first mentor I think that was a big influence musically wise on me was a guy named Reggie Hope. And I was a kid with the guitar from the J.C. Penney, and I had a record from the First Baptist Church of Iredell County, and I loved all that music, had no idea how to make it. And I heard about this guy that lived a couple miles from me in town named Reggie Hope. And so I just walked over to his house one day. I was probably, I don't know, I was in the 7th grade, and he could actually play the guitar. And it was just stunning to watch him. And so he showed me my first song. And the first song he showed me was Jumping Jack Flash, which is absolutely, positively, in retrospect, the worst song to teach someone to begin with, I think maybe because, everybody starts with, Smoke on the Water.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Something that's one finger and easy, right? Well, Jumping Jack Flash is a bar chord.
And bar chords are like the bane when you're trying to learn guitar.
Right. So I when he showed me my first song, I thought, I'm never, ever going to get this. But, a month or so later, I could play Jumpin' Jack Flash. And so my first chord was a bar chord.
Wow.
And then here's an interesting story about Reggie, because Reggie was a very eclectic and also a troubled person. So I go through the high school, I go into the Army, I spend years in Los Angeles, California. I work at a guitar school out there. I go to a guitar school. Then I moved to Nashville, where I'm fortunate enough to play with people that have record deals, people that are doing well. And then I start making records. And we moved back here to care for my father, my adopted father, 10 years ago. And so the first thing I want to do is look up Reggie Hope, right? I want to see what he's doing. And so I find his brother, and I find that Reggie sadly has fallen into a difficult place in his life, and he
Mm.
was living in like a rundown place on the bad part of town. And so we left the Rotary meeting where I met his brother, and I told Susan, I said, just stay in the car. I want to see if we can find him. And so we were riding down this road, and sitting on the porch of this really rundown, dilapidated home was Reggie Hope. He was sitting on the front of it. And so I pulled in the driveway. Now, he's not seen me in at least 30 years, maybe 40 years, a long, long time. And I get out of the car and he goes, "Hey, Rocky, how you doing?" He knew me immediately. And I'm like, "How you doing, Reggie?" And he said, "Well, I'm not really doing all that good." And he'd had all these problems and he didn't have a guitar. So I immediately went back to my studio and I got a guitar and I took it over to Reggie and I gave it to him.
Mm.
And we sat there on the porch and played for a little while. And I could see that joy that he had as a young man back in his eyes. And I was able to tell him how much it meant to me, how much he helped me, and that I loved him, and that I was grateful for him. Since that time, Reggie's passed away,
Mm.
and I hope that that day brought a little bit of peace into his life, into a very troubled soul.
Mm. Wow, what a great story. You know, mentors are something that I think everyone who I've spoken with, whether or not they've been as successful as you or others or not, like the folks that are able to, and people that are able to find and open themselves up to mentorship, to having a mentor, and mentors along the way, as you mentioned, not just one, like as they come, different times of your life, different mentors are there at those times, really seem to have that. They really show the benefit of it, because having someone who's willing to show you the ropes, be a confidant in that way, can really help you in your growth and journey.
Right. And it's about a community too.
Yes,
The more
sir.
people you can involve and the more people you can help or have on your in your tribe, so to speak, the better it is.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So as you mentioned, I love that you went ahead and you kind of mentioned all the places that you went, from your time in the service, which thank you for your service, and there all to being out in LA and then ending up in Nashville. Would you say, because I'm picking up obviously that your roots your inspiration started with rock and roll, which of course, like rock and roll's roots are in blues and country, which also is kind of bluesy too. But so at what point was it Nashville where you kind of more switched and moved more country, or were you inspired by more country music before then?
Well, I went in the Army. As much as I would like to say I went in the Army because I was patriotic, which I am now, but at the time I went in the Army because it was really the only choice for me. My dad worked at the furniture factory here in Statesville, so I could go in the Army or I could work at the furniture
Mm-hmm.
factory. And I wanted to go to this guitar school in California called GIT, which was very lauded as the cool place to go to learn how to play guitar back in those days. And the Army would pay for that. So I did my whole hitch in the Army so I could go to California.
Yeah.
And I moved to California and I went to the school for a year and studied with some of the greatest players in the world, and was very humbled at how much I didn't know. It was a great opportunity for me to just see that I really need to be a student the rest of my life to try to figure this out. And I auditioned for a bunch of rock bands because I wanted to be, I wanted to be Eddie Van Halen or Jimi Hendrix, just like I was before. And I never got the gigs, Justin. I would audition and I wouldn't get it, and I'd audition and I wouldn't get it. And it came down, the last audition that I did in Los Angeles, I had been, in those days, they would have cattle calls at the beginning, and they were
Right.
really looking for a certain look. So you had to have hair and be skinny, and it was a lot of things that aren't as important in today's musical society, thank God, because now it's more about, can he sing, can he play, that sort of thing. So I came down to this last audition, and I'd gotten it all the way down to me and one other fella, and we were going to play the music for the management. So I thought, okay, I got a pretty good shot at this, because it's just me and one other guy. And then the other guy showed up completely inebriated for the audition. So I thought, I'm going to get this one.
Yeah.
This one's going to be mine. Well, to his credit, even though he was drunk as a monkey, he did a nice job.
What?
I did a
All
pretty
right.
nice job. I did a pretty nice job too. He got the job. And then I realized, hey, you know what? I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I don't curse like a sailor. I do all that stuff now, but I didn't do any of it then. And
Not sure I believe that one.
they weren't going to have me. They did. I wasn't going to be any fun, you know. So it didn't work. So I moved to Nashville, where I was able to find people that are in my tribe, and that's really the thing I tell a lot of young people. Going back to our first part of the conversation, is that if you just say, "I'm going to be Eddie Van Halen," and that's it, and if that door doesn't open for you, you have to be brave enough and bold enough to walk through any other doors that do open, because what you're looking for is your path and your way, and your path and your way will be idiosyncratic to your journey, not someone else's journey. So maybe I wasn't put on here to be Eddie Van Halen. Maybe I was put on here to play country guitar or gospel guitars or write songs and be a court jester, that kind of what I am now. And you have to be bold enough to say, I'll change my directions if the winds point me in that direction.
Was there, so what motivated your move out to Nashville? Did someone call you with a gig or what?
Well, when I left Los Angeles, I just started driving, and I drove all the way to the coast. So from leaving Hollywood, California, all the way to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. That's where I am. And I ended up playing with another mentor, inspiration of mine, a guy named Michael Shane, who was the big country guy in that area then. So my audition with Mike Shane was, when I first got there, I was just kind of lost. I was looking for my way in the world. And so I was playing at a place called the Islander at Ocean Isle Beach in Ocean Isle, North Carolina. And it was a jazz gig where there was a piano player, a saxophone player, and I played guitar. And we would play like Girl from Ipanema and Autumn Leaves, that sort of stuff, while people would eat their dinner. And the famous guy in the area was a guy named Mike Shane, and he played at the other Islander. They had two. The other one was a big dance hall. And so I went to the other Islander as soon as I heard about him, and I walked in and I went directly up to him and I said, I'd like to play in your band. And he said, are you that kid from the Islander? And I said, I hope I am. He said, okay, you start tomorrow night. So the next night, he hadn't heard me play.
I was
going to
say, nothing. No audition like in LA. Just straight get to play now. I like it.
He just gave me the gig. So I get on stage with Mike Shane, and he gave me the first solo during a song called Good Hearted Woman, which is an old Willie Nelson song. And I played the worst, most horrible, loud, rock and roll, non-country solo on the planet Earth. And he just looked at me and smiled. And then at the end and we went through the whole night of me just butchering every country song. Then he comes up at the gig, and he hands me a cassette of Vern Gosdin. He says, learn this and you'll know how to play country. So I went home and I didn't sleep, and I worked on it. And the next night, when he would sing those songs, I would play those licks on that Vern Gosdin record. And at the end of the night, he said, I didn't mean in one night, Rocky. I didn't mean go home and learn the whole dang thing in one night. At the end of the summer, he said, son, I'm going to Nashville and I want to make a demo. Bring your stuff and you're going to play. He took me to Nashville, and we checked into the Hall of Fame Hotel, which sounds nice, but it's not, over on Demumbrian. And the next day I found an envelope under my door that said, this is where you belong. I'll have your truck shipped to you. And he had $500 cash in it for me to get started. And that's how I moved to Nashville, Tennessee.
Wow. What a story. Wow. All right. Well, we're going to have to go to break on that. What a story to go to break to. We'll be back with more Rockie Lynne. Know the Scene.
More.
Wow, man, what a cool story. I love it. We're not gonna be able to get all your stories, dude. Like we gotta have you come back. I'm sure you got Bill, tell me, because I know Rocky's been on the station a bunch. Are we getting any cool stories that he hasn't told yet?
I mean, they're all fascinating. And what's crazy is I feel like we're still just surface. We're not even
I
in
know.
the thick of it yet.
I know.
Love to have him back.
Yeah, I love these stories, Rocky. Thank you. How cool.
Well, thanks for letting me share. Thank you so much for helping us do this thing that we're going to get to do. I appreciate it with all my heart.
Oh
man.
no, hey, we appreciate you. You know, I don't even make shows happen, man. We got a great crew, great crew of people, and from the the team, the engineer, sound engineer, light engineers, and Brandon, our tech director, who'll advance with you from that side and everything. I mean, all our front of house are volunteers. Every time we have a show, we have like 20 volunteers that come in and help with
that's
ushering and helping with the front of house side of things and everything. So it's I feel like I don't do anything. You know what I mean? I sign the papers, right, and say, yeah,
I feel
let's
the
do
same
it.
way, man. Back in the club days, it was me and a van. I had a blind piano player and 2 alcoholics in the band, and so I would set everything up, play the show, and tear it down. And
Yeah.
now I just walk in.
Yeah.
It's a blessing.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a band in college, and I was the kind of I was the singer and guitar player, but I was kind of our manager at the same time as
You
well.
weren't the blind piano player?
No, sir. No, sir. I used to drive the trailer, back up the trailer, know how to pack it, all that jazz.
Absolutely.
Back in
The
the
music
day.
business is really the moving business.
That's right. That's right. That's right. You gotta know, like it helped me for later on. Now that I've got a kid and we pack the car to go places or pack the truck. I'm all those summers loading up the band trailer and all those months loading up the band trailer taught me how to pack right.
Oh, absolutely.
Coming up on about 30 seconds.
Excellent.
I'm making my list. I just put Little Wing on it. We're gonna do that. It's gonna be funny, right? It'll be my band is so much better than me. You're just gonna love how they react to that.
I love
it's gonna
it.
be cool.
I love it.
All right, guys, about 20 seconds.
I don't know if you ever heard of Unknown Henson.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, he's one of the best Little Wing performances I've ever seen. He
Really?
can shred that thing.
It's Know the
Shred
Scene
it.
with Cain Center
All
for
right.
the Arts Executive Director Justin Dionne on the new 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
We can go down to old El Paso, spend the night in New
All right, welcome back, everybody, to today's show of Know the Scene. Today's Know the Scene episode with our guest, Rockie Lynne. Wonderful musician, singer, songwriter, performer, just all-around great guy. From Statesville, North Carolina, born and raised, but has experienced success all over the country and the world as well. When we last left off, Rockie was told us how he got to Nashville, and I got to tell you, everyone, we'll have to have Rockie back because there's so much more we can talk about. But this being our last segment here, Rockie, I want to, you've had #1 country singles charts with your song "Lipstick." You've had performances on Good Morning America, Fox and Friends, been on the Grand Ole Opry numerous times as well. Is there any one of, and I love the story that you told about the performer, not the performer, I'm sorry, the soldier that you got to perform for and him coming back. But is there any from like a performer side, from being that kid who listened to, inspired by Hendrix and Kiss and getting that guitar from JCPenney and then, learning and then going to the guitar school after your service and everything there, out of the things you've done from a performer side, is there any one of those moments that you've had so far, and I'm sure there's several, but maybe just pick one for now, that was a moment that just like the little kid that Rockie was when he was so inspired to play guitar. What was one of the professional moments that you've had so far that like just really tickled you? They tickled that little kid inside you.
That's a nice question as well, Justin. But we were lucky enough to play some shows up in the Boston area, up in the New England area with Greg Almond, who, obviously was one of the founding members of the Allman Brothers. And the first show, I think we were allotted 20 minutes. We were going to play 20 minutes, and then, they would come out and play. And their buses were over to the side. It was under a great big tent, and I think it was for the people that owned the Boston Celtics. Now that I think about it, I think it was the people that owned the basketball team up there, and you know how sometimes in multiple band shows, the opening act is really just there to kind of get the people warmed up and get going, and that's totally cool as well. And the stage managers, sometimes they're really friendly and sometimes they're not as friendly. This was one of those situations where they weren't being super friendly, but and so we ended up with just a little teeny tiny bit of the stage,
Oh
but
no! Oh,
we got to do a full sound check. It was so much that we had to set up in a line as opposed to set up with the drums in the
yep.
back and all that. And it was totally fine because we were grateful to be there, and I'm a huge Greg Allman fan. And so we're doing our sound check and we're just kind of jamming, and we got a little time to get it right, which is a blessing. And I look down and there's Greg Allman sitting in one of the seats in the front watching our sound check. And he comes up after the sound check and he goes, "Why are you guys in a line?" And I said, "Well, we're just trying to make sure you guys have plenty of room." And he just goes, "Hey, give these guys some room so they can play." And they moved stuff back and let us put our drums behind them. And then when we got ready to go on stage, the stage manager, who had been less than friendly before, came up and said, "Greg says you can play for 60 minutes." And we got to play for an hour. And for the rest of those few dates there, we we would play and I would look to the side and Greg Allman and his band would be on the side of the stage looking at us.
How
And,
cool!
and and Greg Allman said to me, and I'm not bragging. I hope it didn't sound like I'm bragging because
No,
that's not
no.
what I'm trying to. But you asked what it was, and the first thing that came to my mind was he said to me, "You have such a nice tone." And I mean, playing guitar isn't really about notes. It's about the tone.
Yeah.
It's about the feeling and the emotions that you pull out of it. You know, we forget that music is what moves us, whether we understand the words or the style of music it is at all. Music is from our core, from our very being.
Yeah. Yeah, that's absolutely. And from a guitar guy like Greg Allman to a guitar guy like you, that means something. Because, like, folks who appreciate guitar, like, we all know that you, in my mind, especially someone like a Greg Allman, someone like Jimi Hendrix, Jimmy Page. I mean, I even go so far right now, one of my favorite, more recent guitar players like that, and I think I can hear it and I know it's him, is John Mayer. I mean,
yeah.
they have a tone. They have that guitar. Their guitar, you hear like one or two notes and you're like, "Oh, that's Mayer." Or all that, and so that's how cool for you to have, Greg Allman go, "Your tone is great." Like, that's so awesome.
I'll remember that for the rest of my life. But I'm in a different spot there in that, a lot of now we have this movie coming out and, the movie's about my life and guitar playing or whatever.
Tell us about that. Tell us about that. Where I belong.
Well, people sometimes get the idea because of the movie. I've had several people say to me, "Hey, what's it feel like to be a good guitar player?" or whatever they would say. But the whole idea that didn't come across in the movie is that somehow or another they think I think I'm good at it. I don't at all. I consider myself a student and trying to learn how to play guitar. Guitar is like riding a motorcycle, I think. The day that you think you know how to ride a motorcycle is the day you should probably park your motorcycle.
Huh. So tell us about the documentary coming out. When's it? It's called Rockie Lynne, Where I Belong. Going to be a retrospective of your life and your career so far in music, and it's also going to preview a new album you have coming. But can you share with us some dates and how people can find out more and when it comes out? Where can they find it?
Sure. The movie is called Where I Belong, and it's a documentary. And when they first came to me and said, "We'd like to do a documentary about your life," I was hosting this show on A&E called Operation Build that would do retrofits of veterans' homes who had been injured in the war. And it was a true honor of ours to be a part of that program and to help these men and women whose mobility and access to just normal things like going to the bathroom and getting in and out of their house had been taken away from them by their service to our country. And then we were able to help those people. But those people then wanted to do a documentary about me, and I thought that was the craziest idea ever. But in this research that they did to do the movie, they hired a DNA detective and they found my father. They found my biological father, who never knew that he had a son, who never knew that he had another kid. He had a family and a wife and all that, but he didn't know that. Bill, Justin, guess what my dad did? Guess what my biological father did?
Was he a guitar player?
He was a guitar player in a country band.
What?
He was a paratrooper in the 82nd Airborne in the same unit that I was in, and he played guitar his whole life.
Wow. Wow.
Listen, man.
What? Yeah. Like, wow.
You could have knocked me over with a feather when I found that out. And then I got to meet him, and we got to be super, super close.
Wow.
And in the movie, he comes up on stage and sings with me.
Wow.
And also, I got to spend a great deal of time with him during COVID, because the whole world just stopped during COVID. And we would go there, and I would sit at his house and sing. And then he was declining when I met him, and it got worse and worse. And I was fortunate enough to be there with him by his bedside as he transitioned to heaven.
Wow.
And,
wow.
6 months or a year before that, I didn't even know who my father was.
Wow. Wow. That's wow. So when does the movie come out?
I don't know.
Well, we'll have to have him back. We'll have you back. All right. To celebrate the movie.
Circuit.
All right. Well, we'll have to have you back to have a celebration of the movie coming out. We could talk more about it when that happens.
Well, the movie's done, and we did the film festival circuit, and it was very successful. And now they're scheduling the release to everybody. And I don't know the particulars of it, but it should be the first part of this year, I would hope.
Excellent. Well, we'll make sure to have to get some information and share all that too from our side and from Cain Center side. Hey, what about doing a showing of it at Cain Center?
Anytime. We'd love to do that.
We should do that. I think that would be awesome.
And Bill and anybody else that wants to come.
Yeah, no, really. I think that would be awesome. Like, I would love to do that. No, we've got a full projector, everything. We haven't done a movie yet. It's on our list of things to do. So you could be the first movie at Cain Center, and maybe we could show your documentary. That would be awesome.
A huge honor. We would love that. We'd be very honored. Yes,
now,
sir.
You also, along with other than just doing wonderful things like your documentary, I love that you are also at this point, you and your wife Susan have your entertainment company that you've had, and you're also now to the point where you're doing some mentoring yourself, right? With Danny Kerr.
Mm-hmm. Sure. We have been able and lucky enough to run into a tremendous amount of super talented people in this area, and one of those people is Danny Carr, who is this young lady from Statesville who has this unbelievable gift of a voice that just moves people whenever she sings. And I'm finishing up a record on her now, and she was recently featured on America's Got Talent and did just a wonderful job on that show. And it also allows me to, the 40 years or so we've been in the music business, not without running into a few potholes along the way.
Of course.
And maybe we can somehow or another steer these young people from missing those potholes.
I love that.
Some of the experience that we had along the way.
I love that. Well, Rocky, we've got literally we've got 30 seconds left. Want to make sure, thank you so much for coming today. The time has just flown by.
Okay,
Rockie
we
Lynne,
got to end with a happy birthday to Bill.
Happy
right?
birthday, Bill. Ready?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Bill, who's 34 years old today. Happy birthday to you.
Wow.
All right,
Happy
Bill.
birthday, buddy.
Happy birthday,
Thank you,
everybody.
guys.
Know the
Thank you.
scene. Come see Rockie Lynne at Cain Center for the Arts.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Rocky.
Hey, what a joy, man. Thanks for spending a little time with me today.
No, thank you, man. I'm sorry I didn't, got so much more I love to talk to you about.